Hello, everyone. It's Monday, May 4th. We actually haven't done this in a while. I think last week we've had a few cancellations, but we are ready to start this week. This is travel week, travel trade week, and we have a special guest today with us. We have Chad from the, is it the Israeli Tourism Board, or is there another name for Chad?
It's the Israel Ministry of Tourism, but we are the Tourism Board for Israel, so that's fine.
Okay, perfect. It seems that, apologize. It's something with internet bandwidth is a little slow, but we're gonna try. And we also have we have another person. We have Sarah as well. Let me see if Sarah is. Yes, she is here. We'll introduce her as well. Hi, Sarah. Can you hear us?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so what did you guys introduce yourself? Tell us what you do with the Ministry of Tourism of Israel, and I know there's a lot of us that are ready to hear information. Oh, we have a few people on the line on live already. Let me see. Yes, yeah, we do. Perfect. Okay, so Chad, well, why don't you start and introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm the director of the Northeast region for the Israel Ministry of Tourism. Worked in the Israeli industry now for over 15, which is sometimes surprising when people see me present, because I still look like I'm at the beginning of those 15 years, but I've been doing this for quite some time. I worked for 2 Israeli tour operators over the course of 4 years, and over the course of 6 years, and then 4 years with the hotel side with the Imbal Hotel. And now I've been with the Ministry of Tourism for 4 years. And you know what is to get people to go from here, meaning North America or the North United States, to Israel, and find ways to move that as much as possible on the macro level, while also interacting with every tranche of that level for the necessary amount. And that's what our goals are. And obviously that's tough sledding right now for everybody, but we know we're going to get back to that very soon. And I'll kick it over to Sarah to also introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Mond. I work with Chad in the Northeast region. My title is Advisor, Strategic Partnerships and Events. So I work very closely with Chad on all of our partnerships with all of the different organizations and companies that we work with, and any events that we have that come through our region. I kind of handle the logistics and whatnot alongside Chad.
Perfect.
And presentations are an event, whether or not you're in person. So that's why Sarah's with us here.
And you guys both, you guys are both located in the New York area?
Technically, yes, but at the moment, neither of us.
Normally, we are. I'm in Ohio, so I'm in Columbus.
Yeah, and I'm at my parents' in Tennessee right now.
Okay. Yeah, and Chad, I've met with Chad a few years back with as a representative for the Inbal Hotel in Israel, right? I mean, we've met here, but that's a hotel chain, hotel brand in Israel. So Chad has a presentation for us. I'll let you share the screen. And who's going to run the presentation? Is it Chad or Sarah?
I'm going to run it.
Okay, perfect. So
Chad,
let's do this. Okay, Chad, you should be able to start.
Okay. All right. There might be a little bit of a trail here with the video and my voice, and that's because everyone's working from home in my household, and it's not our business level Wi-Fi that we're used to. So bear with us here. And today I want to cover the 500-pound gorilla in the room of the COVID crisis, as well as, what the Israel to look forward to when we get back to things. First things first about the Israel Ministry of Tourism. I know a lot of you out there are from all over, and we've got the bases covered. North America, we have 5 offices. I head up the Northeast region, and Sarah's on my team, and we have a team of 3. But we try to get out there as much as we can and connect with everyone in our area. But we do have offices in Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Toronto. If you are in those areas, we'd be happy to connect you with your local Ministry of Tourism office. Our activities are to interact with agents and really try to get people selling Israel in all the different markets where we operate. I always like to just give a title. Israel, a historic destination that makes history. In a moment, we'll talk about how that couldn't be more true, not only from a historic standpoint, but also currently in the COVID crisis, how Israel's become a real leader. I think that one of the misconceptions, we don't travel by camel anymore, and thankfully, I don't think COVID's going to send us back to the Stone Age. So the Israel we're selling is a modern country. And one of the first misconceptions I like to address is sort of this notion. I think that many people, when you say Tel Aviv, they think high tech. And we just had another company get sold for about $1 billion to Intel. They bought companies for as much as $14 billion in Israel. Large buys in one of the most advanced countries in the world. When you say Tel Aviv, people get that. When you say Jerusalem, way back in time. The truth is, the whole country, world, it's a destination as far as experience for the technology. So when we're forward to our advancements in tourism, it's gone in less than a cent from sub-periphery sort of developing country all the way to the front of the first world at the pace that we have. Literally did it in under 60 years. So even though that may be what you're thinking of, the reality is that picture on your right. So now moving on, I'm going to talk about just to address the COVID crisis and how Israel has grappled with that. Roy had asked that I put this out there. I think it's a very good idea to do so. Pardon the basic nature of this, but I really hesitate to put text on a sheet as a slide, but I think in this case it's okay. Israel became one of the first countries to require quarantine for all visitors. We're ahead of the curve while flattening the curve, is what I like to say to everyone. As early as March 18th, we started requiring, as early as March 10th, we required quarantine. March 18th, we required that only citizens can return home and have to quarantine. Now, if you want to come visit Israel, even as a citizen, not really visit, you have to come to stay essentially, and they assign you a hotel to stay in for quarantine. So the country took it very seriously. We've been sheltering in place since March 19th. And then since April, and now then on April 19th, we were already re-emerging from our shelter in place. So here you can see zoos and national parks have been allowed to open. Companies have been returning to the office somewhat. Standalone stores are allowed to open now. And we've already now progressed to the next level where the government's already talking about return to school. There's been some pushback there. Libraries and gyms are talking about opening, and that's, and I can show you why in just a second, that it's not that Israel, there's here in the States, we're still grappling with what to do and when to do it, and some are moving forward and some are not. Israel is pretty much working on a consensus of the population, partly because Israel itself has less people than many American states, but also because of the progress that's been made. We've had a substantial number of cases, really very few deaths, and we do still have many recoveries, but I wanted to show you some graphs on maybe what we could see on coming up for a lot of the states in the US. Active cases, this may look high, but it's actually continuing to go down. the important thing that we're looking at internationally and also as a return to tourism is new cases. And in this case, Israel is really doing very well. You can see where our peak was in early April, whereas the U.S., many places have not yet reached their peak or are still in their peak. We're all the way very end of we had some hotels wrapping up their whole COVID division, some hospitals wrapping up their COVID divisions because there weren't new cases coming in already, which is very encouraging on our side. The response in Israel, Israelis themselves as a population also took it very seriously. Culturally, Israelis are unfortunately accustomed to some amount of conflict or worrying about a certain conflict. So when something comes up, they're a little bit more quick to adapt. Israel, like I said, we had barely any cases when we shut our borders, comparative to when other countries did that. The country's used to doing that kind of adjustment. We're used to taking quick action due to outside stimuli. Sorry, I didn't want to go there yet. So we're now looking at domestic tourism in Israel. It is a small country, but just like many of us go around our states, Israelis visit many sites in Israel, and that's going to be our test case coming up even this week, where Israelis start to become tourists in their own country, that we see how we're going to move forward with social distancing, being responsible, required face masks, face coverings outside of the home will be a rule, and we're looking at how we grapple with that. They're also looking at a coded system, sort of a math-based system, point system for the citizens based on how much risk they have. So if you have a higher risk, you're encouraged to stay home more and more. It's going to be more self-enforced, but it is something that we're looking at doing in order to make sure that everybody is healthy and moving forward. There's a lot of Israel's practices, to say weak, copied throughout the world, or at least adjusted for those populations. Where we are in this situation, all things considered, where we're just grateful that our population and the leadership of the country had some foresight, and we're doing quite well. And we're happy to see other countries doing that as well. Now, getting back to tourism, we don't know when that will be, but we want to remind everyone that Israel is a great destination to visit, and that 93% of all tourists have a good to excellent experience in Israel, which is relatively, I think, unprecedented for countries. This is done based on exit data. It's as random of a sample as we can get at our airports for people that we know have visited the country. So that's one of those things. And now I'm going to move a little bit more into talking about Israel rather than about how we're coming back from COVID, just as everyone else will. We're all in this together. Giving you some to look for. A little over 4.5 million tourists visited Israel in 2019. That was up here in a row. For sure, we won't be breaking that record in 2020. Israel tourism is from North America, including 1.2 million here from the U.S. So this is the biggest market, and for sure, we're watching how the U.S. recovers, and we're eager to get our wonderful tourists back from all of the different destinations in North America that come to Israel. And this is a chart that needs to be updated, but this is just to sort of illustrate for you our unbelievable growth in North America. This is just 2018, but 2019 was even higher. Of 40% in the last 4 years, an increase in tourism to Israel, and how important the U.S. market is for us, and also how desirable of a destination Israel is to folks in North America. So now let's get to some our bread and butter, what we're used to talking about, the logistics and getting to Israel, and why you should consider selling Israel to your clients, and why you should be excited about it. First things first, where we're located, 200-kilometer strip of coastline right on the Mediterranean. Israel has 4 different major bodies of water. We call all of them seas, but not all of them are salt water. Some of them are some of the saltiest water in the world, and that's the Mediterranean, the Sea of Galilee in the north, which is a lake, really it's fresh water, the Dead Sea, which is the lowest place on Earth and also incredibly salty, and then the Red Sea in the south, which has one of the world's only growing coral reefs in the world. Approximately the right, I think I want to know good idea unique in that in New Jersey in the middle of January and it's snowing there. In Israel in the wintertime, and the same day that it's snowing in the far north, where you see all the way at the top on Mount Hermon, our only ski location in the country, you could actually be snorkeling in the Red Sea in Eilat or floating on the Dead Sea. And that's because Israel borders 3 different continents. On the bottom, Israel itself is part of the African shelf, but considered part of the Asian continent. It's not. Then we have the Asia-Africa rift along right where the Dead Sea and the Sea of Galilee are. Dead Sea is the lowest place on Earth. The second lowest place is actually the Sea of Galilee. Israel houses both, and that's why we have so many unique geological formations, and then Europe in the north. So what that gives us is a lot of different elevation changes, a lot of unique climates and microclimates in a very, very small area. You know, you would have to cover hundreds of miles in the United States to cover what about 10 miles covers in Israel between climate regions. It just isn't like that in many places, and that's because Israel is in many places in one when you take that into account. Everything to be close, and that's anything from cities to biblical sites. You know, with every step, you're either finding a new city, a slightly different culture, different cuisine, a different place in history. We've just got so much combined into one small place that you're visiting almost many places in one trip, even though it's such a small size. The average time between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem without traffic is about 50 minutes. It is not far at all, as you can see on the map. Jerusalem to Dead Sea, you know, if your clients like to sort of anchor in a couple of locations and they want to do day trips and they don't mind a couple hours here, a couple hours there, they can do that without staying even up north. That said, if you want to have a good, efficient trip, I always recommend 2 nights Tel Aviv, a couple nights up north, and then 3 to 5 nights in Jerusalem, and you can see most of the entire country aside from Eilat. But Eilat itself is primarily resort cities, so most of the biblical sites and the modern cultural sites. Now, the next is for sure probably not accurate anymore, but just to give you an idea of airlines and who flies to Israel, we've been in touch with all of the airlines in this crisis, and all have recommitted to bringing back their flights to Israel. Now, does that mean that they're going to fly from every single destination? That, you know, we don't know. But we do know that the interest in resuming flights from United and Delta and Air Canada is very real. In fact, Air Canada is celebrating 25 years of flying to Israel this year. You know, what a year to choose, but you know, it's going to come back. And we had 11 gateways and counting that were added. And by the way, when I first started, we only had 3 flights from North America. We've now moved up to 11. During normal times. So will we get all 11 back? I think so. I think very likely even in the near term, we'll be up to 8 or 9 quite soon. You can see all of those right here. By the way, multiple other connection. One of the things that Israel has as an advantage, by the way, in this COVID era, that's been noted by the airlines when we've spoken with them, is that we only have one major international gateway. Now, Eilat does take international flights from Europe, but for Americans and the majority of travelers, they're flying into Tel Aviv Ben Gurion, which is our main airport. And because we only have one point of entry, we can both gauge who's coming in and out, and additionally other destinations as they're tracking who's going where with testing and the virus. We're an easier destination to deal with. So not only are we emerging from this sooner than many other places are, but we'll also be a little bit easier to get back to for that reason. And I'm sure that other destinations will find a way to grapple with that, have multiple airports. But for us, it does make things a little bit easier. Other things that make it easier are passports upon arrival for American citizens. We do not stamp passports. So in the case that you have a client, I find this especially with the older clients that remember a little bit more sometimes about how things were than and how things have changed and how things are now, we don't stamp passports anymore. And we haven't stamped passports for, I want to say, either somewhere a little bit over, a little bit under 10 years. And we stopped doing that, not because Israel had rules about where other people had visited, but other countries had said, oh, you've been to Israel, we can't allow you in. And we just decided that, it's not our rule, but we don't want it to be our problem. And we want people to come and visit our country and see so many wonderful things. So we stopped stamping them. English is widely spoken. Israel has some of the most per capita graduate degrees in the world. Students start learning English basically from the time they start school. So what you'll find is it's not just a country where English is somewhat understood. It's not sort of an excuse me, do you speak English? It's literally you could just say, excuse me, can you help me with this? And expect that the person will understand what you're saying or asking. So it's very, very helpful in that way linguistically. Also the cross-section of our population. We're the only majority Jewish population country in the world, aside maybe from New Jersey, which I was showing earlier. But I say that in jest, but 20% Muslim, 5% Druze, Christian, Baha'i, many different small minorities, especially in the north of Israel and the south of Israel. They're fascinating and wonderful to hear about, that have diverse faiths. And it's very interesting and something we celebrate really as a destination. So that you're getting a unique population in addition to a unique place. And now is when I'll do my short little wander around here, tour of Israel via my presentation. Is it going to move? There we go. And I'll start with Tel Aviv. So just as I said, you sort of go Tel Aviv, North, and Jerusalem. I more or less stick to that in this sort of virtual tour of our destination. So Tel Aviv is a mashup of 70 different cultures. Sometimes people are surprised by that because the Jewish population here in the States is primarily what we call Ashkenazi Jews from Europe. Israel, it's less than half that are Ashkenazi Jews of origins of Europe. The majority population is actually what we call, some here call it Sephardic. In Israel, you'd call it Mizrahi. They're Jews that had fled to Israel from the Middle East, initially from Spain, from the Inquisition, but many of them came from the Middle East, Turkey, and other areas of the region in the 1950s, and they came from all different places. We like to think of things in big generalities here in this country. Tunisians are not the same as Moroccans, are not the same as Libyans, are not the same as Yemenite, are not the same as, for sure, Ethiopians. And the reason why I stress that is that Tel Aviv is such a mixture of all of these different ethnicities coming together in one place. And we like to say that America is a melting pot. If that's true, Israel's a pressure cooker. We're on our fourth, fifth, sometimes sixth generations here since statehood, and it's very common for someone to have a grandparent not just from each different country, but sometimes from a different continent, each grandparent. So the mixture of those cultures together has created a whole lot of unique reflections in the population and in the discourse and how just a super fun place to visit culturally. Tel Aviv is also the cultural hub. It's much sort of like, some people will compare sometime, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to New York and DC. It's a loose comparison, but it somewhat works. The best, some of the best museums are in both cities, but Tel Aviv has a wonderful museum of art, museum of natural history that's just open, that looks like Noah's Ark. That's that lower right-hand corner. Great bike tours, fun outdoor activities, a graffiti tour. So it's that sort of bohemian, cosmopolitan city. It never sleeps. And I know that we kind of stole that from New York, but I'm telling you, you can go and get, you can go to a nice restaurant sometimes all the way after midnight in Tel Aviv without a problem. I mean, there's always something open. Israel's a young country. The average age is 29 years old. It probably even gets a little bit younger when you go to Tel Aviv. And you can see that reflected in the norms of the city. Tell a foodie. Sometimes I stay up late at night and make these presentations. No joke. And I think these are funny when I do these little word puns. But Israeli food and cuisine has now started its own diaspora around the world of chefs that are getting all kinds of awards and accolades. Some people say Aldo Lenghi from England. We're partial to the folks that have had success in the States. This is Michael Solomonov, who won the James Beard Award just a couple years ago. Alon Shaya won Best New Restaurant with his restaurant Shaya. He's also got a new one called Saba in New Orleans. Many of you have probably visited them. They are fantastic cuisine, but I will also say the same thing that my friends in Italy said for years. People said, if you think that the Italian food in New York or other cities across the United States is good, you should try it in Italy. If you think the Israeli food is good in these award-winning restaurants, you have to try it in Tel Aviv or anywhere in Israel. It's truly unique and special. Startup Nation is a nickname we got over the years. It's a big reason during the COVID crisis, not necessarily recovery in foresight in closing of the drugs, some with success, some without. Additionally, we're working on a number of sciences in biotech industry, and Microsoft, Google, you name it. They've all either bought companies or developed new products. Many of the iPhones have actually been developed themselves, or in Herzliya, which is just north of Tel Aviv. We're also one of the top. Israel is amazing in that we can perform in so many diverse markets that you wouldn't associate with one another, but coexist so well in the country regardless. Not necessarily without any conflict, but the Pride Parade in Tel Aviv has become one of the best known, most celebrated parades in all the world. It's easily the biggest in the Middle East, but that's not hard. But it really is one of the top in the world. And here we show you the celebrity talent. These are our sort of honorary leaders of Pride. Alan Cumming and Leah Delaria, Perez Hilton, Andy Cohen in 2018, and last year Neil Patrick Harris and David Burtka. And I have to say, Neil Patrick Harris blew it out of the water. Everybody wanted a piece of Neil Patrick Harris when he was there, but Tel Aviv is just one of these cities that, like a San Francisco or a Boston or a New York, that diversity is celebrated and welcomed, and we're very proud of that. Israel is also the world's only land. It's more important than any place in the to the Abrahamic faith, the Bible, the Quran. In the north of Israel is actually, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. It's actually and that's because almost all of the New Testament took place in the north of Israel. Think of sites like, normally I'd show a video here, but my bandwidth is strained as it is, so I'm not going to, but we show this nice video of Nazareth, and it goes through the whole narrative. And we have a gospel trail that you can actually hike along all of the different Christian sites, maybe not all of them, but many of the different Christian sites in the path of the New Testament. Think Sermon on the Mount, think Mount of Beatitudes, think Capernaum, St. Peter's house, all of these different areas, and you can literally hike it. You don't have to hike the whole thing. You can hike pieces of it, but you're walking in the footsteps of the New Testament as you're doing that. And it's having seen it myself, believers go on the trip. It's an amazing thing to plan. It's an amazing thing to be a part of. And I've been lucky to work in so many strata in the industry to say that when agents do this for their clients, there is no trip that speaks to them the way that this does. And there's no amount of gratitude. There's no way they can limit the amount of gratitude that they have for the work that you would put into it. It's truly meaningful, amazing experience. We also have in the north of Israel. Caesarea, again tied to the New Testament, because this is where they found a placard saying Pontius Pilate, but this new for Caesarea, which is how we pronounce it in Hebrew, is that this year it was in New York Times 52 places to go in 2020. Now New York Times has adjusted that to 52 places to go virtually in 2020, but we hope that people will go there in 2020 towards the end of this year anyway. And it's called Pompeii by the Beach. Caesarea is really interesting because it was Herod's port city, and much of it sunk into the Mediterranean. So not only can you visit it as a historical site, also as a religious site, because there's proof of Pontius Pilate, which to many is more proof of the Testament itself. But you can actually go snorkeling. It's one of the world's only and best outdoor museums. And that's because you can snorkel along the ruins of the city and see it underwater, or scuba dive, and it's so cool. So it's definitely something you can look at for off the beaten path. Another cool wrinkle you can throw in there without getting off the beaten path, because it is a main site. And after you've had maybe a long, heavy day of that touring, bear in mind that Israel also has wonderful wines, and its wine heartland is in the north of Israel. We actually have our own wine trail that we've gotten approved. The Judean Hills outside of Jerusalem, if you want to do a day trip from Jerusalem, very easy way to reach some of the best wineries like Hastel. And then also in the north of Israel, Golan Heights, all through this area, you have world-class wines. And I know that, people think Manischewitz. Don't think Manischewitz. It's not even, I don't think, an Israeli wine. Kosher wine doesn't know it's kosher. It's wine that is made just the way that it has been made for many years. And Israel 2,000 years ago was a main wine producer in the world, and we're now really making leaps and bounds to win awards. We've been on the cover of Wine Spectator and numerous other publications because of that. And it's definitely something that you should do, both because it's good wine and because Israel has so much to offer in so many different ways. One of my favorite things about selling this destination is, on one hand, yes, you are going back in time to visit Old Testament, New Testament sites, crusades. All of these are in Israel, but you're also visiting a living place where there is a relatable society that is different than ours. So just different enough to stir our curiosity, but just similar enough that we can relate to their lives. And what better way to do that than to taste some of our wonderful wines in Israel. So now moving forward, I want to cover a little bit, maybe out of sequence, some of our other famous. Up north, normally you come down and visit Jerusalem, but I want to crescendo on Jerusalem. So we're going to go down to the Dead Sea, which is south. This is about an hour and a half trip from Jerusalem. It is not far. The same day you visit Dead Sea, you also visit Masada, which I'll show you in just a moment. And the cool thing about the Dead Sea is that it's simple. It's a superlative. You're in the lowest place on earth. You put mud on your face. You get a selfie. So I didn't mean to press that next, but you can relax for the day, but you also get some content. And by that, I mean Masada, UNESCO World Heritage Site, literally, 15, 20 minutes, not even, from the Dead Sea. You can see the Dead Sea from the top of Masada. So you get to see Herod's mountain fortress, also the last stand of the Zealots, which we know the Zealots were there because they found the lots that they cast when they were unfortunately committing mass suicide. Not the most positive story. When the Roman legion was taking over Masada. And you visit this wonderful historical place that was preserved through time because it's in the middle of a desert and it's raised up and there's no real reason for anyone to explore the top of it. And you can also visit the Dead Sea in the same day. Additionally, you can do all of these different active activities while you're doing that. And here you can see, I thought I would just throw in here some of the active things that you can do that we've discussed. The lower right-hand corner there, that is Caesarea, where he's the sunken city. In the middle here, this is rappelling on the wall, the ramparts of Jerusalem. To the left of that is, I'm going right to left here, is rafting on the Jordan. It's not crazy rapids, but it's something fun for family to do. And then biking hiking here is in our desert. And I just thought I'd throw these in here for all these active things that you can do as a mixture into your program. Then I'm going to go down and just say for a moment Eilat, because Eilat last year was one of our 52 places to go in 2019. 2 consecutive years, Israel has been on the 52 places to go with the New York Times, and it hasn't been Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. It has been other destinations in Israel that they have found special and unique and worth visiting. And I think that says something about it. Lastly, I want to end on Jerusalem. I think that as much as we have so many places that I've mentioned in Israel, to what calls to people, it's a place, while people may have Israel on their bucket list, they may also just have Jerusalem on their bucket list, and we're aware of that. It's a special city. It's a special place. It's the meeting point of 3 Abrahamic faiths. In Jerusalem, you have, of course, the religious sites. I put the 2 top ones right here. Now, 2 in 1, which is what we call Kotel in Judaism. That's the Western Wall in the upper left-hand corner here. But then above it, you have the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that is sacred to Muslims. And then to the right, you have the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And while this is a Catholic site, it's also widely believed to be the place where Jesus' body was prepared, essentially his tomb with the Golgotha and all of it inside the cross. There are Protestant sites touching almost every Catholic site, and that would be the Garden Tomb. I don't have that picture here. Some must see. It does only 9/11 memorial outside of
Chad, we lost your screen for some reason.
Someone establishes that this is not something created. Lastly, Machane Yehuda Market, which is an outdoor market to mix things up and make things fun in.
Chad, we lost your, oh, and now we lost Chad as well. Sarah?
Hi, I'm gonna.
It's on you.
Let me message him really quick because he's the one with the presentation on his end.
But yeah, we were. We'll try and recover and get him back soon.
Yeah.
When was the last time you've been to Israel?
I was there not this past summer, but the one before. As Chad had mentioned, we were talking briefly. The reason it's been that long, usually I try to go much more often, but I had twins last summer, so I've been a little busy and unable to really travel. But yeah, I try to get there as often as possible. So.
I wrote down a few comments, like what was it? 50 minutes he said from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. I don't know, maybe in the middle of the night.
Right. I mean, it depends. If you're going during rush hour, it'll probably be a bit over an hour, just like in New York. But if you go earlier in the morning before the rush hour or right after rush hour, usually if it's a guided trip or a group trip of some kind, they try to avoid those rush hours at the beginning of the day and the late afternoon, early evening. So, but yeah, if there is no traffic, then you can get there quite quickly. And now, with the train that's between the two cities, if you don't have a car or you just want to do a day trip, you can get there very fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Chad, but he's not really. I see he's trying to connect, but not yet. Also, something new that I haven't known as the snorkeling in Caesarea. I was not aware of that. I didn't.
Yeah, it's definitely for some reason, even though it's one of the coolest activities, it's just not as popular. But, I think it's one of the cities that, depending on the type of the theme of the trip, it's not, a stop that everyone does. But even if they do stop there for a quick short visit, don't necessarily have time to get in the water, but also if you go in the winter, even though the weather there is pretty warm most of the year, they do get colder periods, but if it, in the wintertime, it's not really, and water activity is not really so appropriate unless you wear a wetsuit and you're fine with that. But yeah, that's an amazing, amazing experience that, I don't think enough people even know about. So, we're trying to spread word, and, being when it was one of the New York Times top places to go, that was new information we were able to share about that. If I don't know how long it'll be for Chad to jump back on, but I know he stopped kind of at the Machane Yehuda outdoor market in Jerusalem. It's something you can see similar types of ideas in different parts of Europe. But in Jerusalem and in Tel Aviv, they have these amazing outdoor markets. Any food you can find, as well as a handful of years ago, the mayor of Jerusalem kind of did a revamping to make it not just a marketplace that people come during the day to buy their groceries, but started opening up some restaurants. And at night, those vendors shut down, and it becomes, there's tables set up in the middle of the streets in the stalls, and it becomes like a lively bar and a club experience. So you walk through and you can sit down and grab a drink. You hear live music playing, people playing fun Israeli board games. It really comes to life. So, and as Chad had mentioned, with the melting pot of so many different cultures, you really, from one stall and one vendor to the next, you really get to experience such a vast variety of foods and cultures in the market as well. There he is.
Hello again. Chad, can you hear us?
Are you guys seeing this time? I can hear you.
Okay.
So Sarah was trying to help us and continue regarding Jerusalem. Do you want to try and see if we can share your screen again? And,
yeah.
I can tell you that we've
now
experienced the Jerusalem market last year. We went to visit with the family. It's a really unique experience. You get to see the old and the new, and the food, the herbs, everything local food, and also some weird things that like fusion that you see all around the. I mean, you don't see it anywhere, and it's really unique.
Yeah, I'm trying to load up my screen here. We'll see if it lets me do it. We had a good run, and then it suddenly puffed out on me there.
And you said that you have a video. If you could later on send it to me, we can post it in the group as well regarding the video. And the northern part of Israel
I'd like
is
unique.
It is my hometown.
I'd like to post our YouTube channel because we have so many different videos.
Yeah, Chad needs a stronger bandwidth. Need to get back to New York.
Yeah, it doesn't.
We can try and maybe continue without the presentation, talking about what still you have, and see if we have any questions regarding the destination.
Doesn't want to let me.
I think he might be a bit frozen. You there, Chad?
Nope. I think we lost him again.
I can try FaceTiming him and holding him up. Get creative.
Yeah. So what's next in the itinerary after we hit Jerusalem? We've actually just remember we did. There's a tour that you go underneath the Wailing Wall, the catacombs, and it was just unique. Again, I've lived in Israel for 23 years, but some
Mhm.
of the things I've never done. And
Yeah,
we,
so it's
we,
actually
we got to go last year and
Mhm.
with the family, and we did some of the things, and it's just it's quite unique. There's always something new to see, even if you've lived in the country for many
Right.
many years.
Right. I mean, even there, every day, every month, they're still discovering new archaeological sites where I think it could be about, 8 to 10 years ago at this point, but they were right outside the old city. They were doing construction, repaving a parking lot and maybe reworking some of the piping. And all of a sudden they found a whole ancient site from, I can't remember even what period it was, but ancient biblical site that they found that there had been a parking lot there for hundreds of years that they had no idea. So that's the beauty, in the country, that even if you've been 5 times, and I've been there several times, lived there for a chunk of time like you, there's always new things to do, new museums that are opening. As small as the country is, you can never run out of things to do, new restaurants to go to. So that's one of the beauties of being a tourist in that country, for sure.
Nice, and also saw lots. The winter was amazing, rain wise. The Sea of Galilee, the Kinneret, is almost reached its top. Like I know they were missing tons of water. There was also always a drought warning and issues, and now it just looks
Yeah,
gorgeous. I've never
right,
seen it
right.
in
Recently, it's come
20
back
25
to
years. I haven't seen it like that. And so it
exactly,
is gorgeous.
exactly.
Something to if you are planning on visiting or on bringing clients to go to Israel for next year, the country's ready.
Exactly. And Chad said he had to restart his computer. He should hopefully be back on soon, but I can kind of jump ahead to a few things, although we don't have the slides, but just talk about just the hotels that we have in Israel. That's been a huge initiative that Chad and our region have been working on to actually get new hotels being built in Israel, because we've kind of run out of room in hotels, which is obviously a good problem to have. But just in recent years, we've had the Satai in Tel Aviv and in Tiberias open, which is a known amazing hotel here. A handful other amazing 5-star luxury hotels in the Jaffa, Tel Aviv area have opened. There's a Waldorf Astoria that's been open for several years now in Jerusalem. And more big names like this are continuing to open, as well as, hundreds basically of these cute boutique hotels that are opening. So obviously maybe for larger groups they may not fit, but if it's a smaller group or a family or a individual travel, these boutique hotels, you really get a really nice kind of family friendly experience in Israel. Bed and breakfast type of experience, all have different themes and different vibes there as well. So it's really kind of feels like every month or every other month a new hotel is opening. So if you're planning your trips, always try to check in with the latest hotels that are opening as well there. Um, oh, I think he might be.
Yeah, we're waiting for him.
Okay, I thought he just sat back on just reading a message. Yeah, he said he's having some type of connection
Yeah.
issue. I don't know if we want to just go ahead and while we're waiting, we can open it up to some questions. Can people chat in if we have any?
Yeah, people can. If there is a slight delay as well of about 30 seconds, but yeah, if
Okay.
people have a question regarding the destination, how to get there, um, what is there a specific recommendation in terms of weather? I know the summer is pretty warm, pretty hot.
Right. So, I mean, thankfully, the weather is pretty moderate most of the year. The summer months, once you get into like July and August, can be pretty warm. Um, Being that it's mostly a desert country, the night tends to cool off a little bit, which is always nice. The best times if you're looking, for warm but not too hot, April, May, June is when it starts to get a little bit hotter. And then again, end of August, but like September, October, you'll find really, really wonderful weather. Once you get into the fall and the winter, you can have your warm days, but then in like Jerusalem, you can get, decently cold days, and at night tends to get colder. We always tell people to travel in layers, because you can be in one, as you travel all parts of the country in one day, even you can be in the desert in the south or in Tel Aviv in the middle of the day, and it's 70 degrees in January, but then at night, either if you go up north or in Jerusalem or whatnot, it can go down to 40 degrees. So it's always easier to take off a layer. So that's pretty much the weather.
I would also say my recommendation is also to consider if you really want to go during the peak holidays, the holy holidays to Israel, because I mean, it's gorgeous, it's amazing, but it might tend to be a little more expensive because a lot of local people are traveling too. Kids are off.
Exactly. We always like to tell people, to look at, especially the Jewish holidays on the calendar. They kind of fluctuate, where they are each year. The Passover holiday in the spring tends to be anywhere from the end of March through middle to late April. And then again, the fall holidays that can be early September to late September through, middle to end of October. That's when you'll get a huge influx from the Jewish community. So flights will probably be a little bit more expensive, and hotels will be pretty booked up. So it's always best to look before you book. Middle to end of January tends to be a little bit slower. So, not everyone loves to necessarily travel in the winter, but being that the weather is fairly moderate there, still a great time to go. And slowly, honestly, the rest of the year, the calendar is filling up. Chad, can you hear?
I don't know if it's better right now with Chad, but we're because he seems to get a little. Yeah. Can you hear us?
I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. We were just talking
Sarah's
about
doing great.
the times to visit. And I can let Chad take back over from there, but end of January time, and then again kind of July, early August tend to be our only kind of fairly open, slower gaps in the calendar. The rest of the year is really, really filled up. So definitely, if you're thinking of booking as far as possible if you want to go those more popular times. But July, early August tends to be, if you want summer months, to be a little bit more occupancy and availability for sure.
Are there any? Is the Ministry of Tourism? Do you recommend using a specific, like a tourism board? Do you have specific suppliers that you would recommend, or it doesn't really work like that?
So I know Chad actually, he wanted to speak on this, and we work with all of them. We don't favor any; they're all great. I wanted him to really, as he works with them more than I do, so he can speak to it way better than I can. I tend to be more the itinerary planner with the sites. He handles more of the travel agent side.
Okay, so we can try later on and get some of the names. I don't know, again, if you do have a preferred suppliers or not, but just in general, because I've noticed a lot of agents have some issues with a destination that they've never visited or don't know much about. They don't know even how to start and who to call. And Israel is not a destination that is really being sold by everyone. It's not. It's a unique. It's a unique destination, amazing destination, but again, it's not being sold by everyone, so people kind of need to know where to go.
Right. So we do have a fabulous website, Israel.travel. And on there you will find a lot of different resources to help, whether it's, packages that you can purchase that include, land, flight, as well as links to tour operators and agents to help you with planning your trip, if that's that's the route. Or if you already work with an agent, or an operator that's helped you plan several other trips and they don't currently sell Israel, even refer them to us and we can help hopefully get them to start selling Israel and work with
The
them
agent.
to do
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a list of representatives across like the U.S., like a division of who they reach based on their based on their location?
I believe so. I don't want to answer incorrectly. Again, that's Chad's area of expertise. If he's, see if he, Chad, you there?
Maybe right on time. We were asking Chad, hopefully if you can hear us, regarding
We can send
representative
everyone a list.
within the Ministry of Tourism that
Very easy to
for
access
agents
our office.
to go to. The delay is quite hard to for the interview.
Yes.
Let me try.
Okay, so we will try to get the list, and I will post it. I think
I'm calling Chad and he can speak into my computer.
a little low tech.
Okay, Chad, we have you on speakerphone to answer that question since the connection isn't working. So speak and we'll see if Roy can hear you.
The answer is yes. We can definitely get we can, first of all, we're happy to connect with agents directly with all of our proper offices. Within the U.S., within the world, anywhere. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, so yeah, I'll reach out to Chad. We'll try and get the list of who to turn to if they need any assistance and maybe some guidance how to start to sell the destination. Maybe get some more information, training about Israel in general, and we'll go from there. And I would really like to get some of the, I think there's a YouTube channel that Chad mentioned. If we can get the link to the YouTube channel, we'll put it on with some videos, some content that maybe people can use with their clients when they're ready to promote. I know we haven't talked in general. I mean, we've talked about, the different religions, but I know a lot of church groups are going, a lot of synagogue, shuls, everyone's gathering and going with groups to Israel. I think it's an amazing opportunity if you are part of that community that maybe are looking for a church group to send to Israel, maybe a combination of Israel with other areas, other countries in the area. It is quite a destination that is on people's, I guess, bucket list, or a place that you always want to go, but maybe are a little worried, a little bit afraid. Right, Chad?
Absolutely. Israel in general, we have a very large faith-based following. There's no doubt about that. We always have about 50% group. I know Sarah talked about seasonality. I would say I always sort of give my very biased opinions as far as when to visit, being I think a great time, bang for the buck, weather for the buck as well, is early November. Previously, Sarah's right. We were starting to burst at the seams almost year-round, except for July, where we had that lull, and a little bit in August. But now I think we can bet moving forward that we'll have availability along with the rest of the world. But a great time to visit is, the fall. The winter is not too cold comparatively. A lot of people are saying to visit Italy in the winter because it's not so busy. You can say the same thing about Israel, but there are visitors. Hotels do not close seasonally in Israel. In fact, the peak for what we would call the Christian market, the churches to come, generally would be November, sometimes early December, but not so much because it's a hard time to travel. January, February, March, and then if there is another May boost for maybe the more high-end, what we call sometimes pilgrim or Christian group, but those are the key months that people come, or the off-peak season. The Jewish market is also a big one, but FIT and Customized is a huge market for Israel. The Customized, we've got wonderful guides that take about a year and a half to train. They basically get a master's degree in order to be a licensed tour guide in Israel. And we can't train enough of them. The guides are in very high demand because the FIT Customized market has really increased, I'd say, especially in the last 3 years, where people want their own guide and their own trip, and they want to decide the things they're going to see. And additionally, we've had a big increase in young travel, people anywhere from 18 to 35 coming, and of course they travel differently, but a lot of our markets have changed simply because of the advancement of the country. Tel Aviv was an afterthought when I first started in this industry. Now it's that you can't miss Tel Aviv because it's its own international city with its own identity. Obviously, Jerusalem is at the big center of everything when you want to go to Israel, but the whole destination has changed as far as our client profile.
Okay, great, thank you. So I think we've gone for a little over an hour. We are ready to wrap it up a little bit. I'll get some more information from you regarding who to reach out to, the YouTube, maybe some training if there's a website that does some training regarding the destination, and unless you want to summarize, or you or Sarah.
Sure. I'll summarize. If I miss anything, Sarah, just jump in. Essentially, I would say this. First things first, we don't know when this crisis is going to be over, but we have a sense that Israel will be one of the early countries to emerge from this crisis. So it's something to think about for your clients that are looking to travel internationally. Keep your tabs on us. We are a destination that has everything. And we have everything at a level that very few places in the world have. If you want unparalleled history, obviously faith, there's no one that holds a candle to Israel. But also if you want to have activities and fun and food and all those wonderful things we enjoy when we travel, Israel has all of those. You don't have to take every one of them, but we certainly have something for each and every client. Israel's price point, I think, is competitive with the rest of Europe, and it's a place that your clients will come back and say, thank you so much for planning that trip for me, and I've heard it time and time again from trips that I've planned myself. It does take some time, it does take some customization sometimes, but you will get that satisfaction from selling Israel.
Perfect, thank you. Sarah, anything to add?
Exactly what Chad said. Get to see it with your own eyes to see the beauty and the magic, and you'll want to go back again and again and again. It never gets old.
Yeah, I know that right now when people are maybe worried about travel in general, there are some destinations that they fear. Oh, we always wanted to go to, one of them would be Israel, and you never know what's going to happen. So maybe it's time to skip that local kind of vacation or a place that we've been before, and maybe try and take a leap of faith to go to Israel. I want to thank both of you for the time. I'm sorry it didn't work out with the internet and everything. Maybe we'll try again later when bandwidth is much better.
Yeah, we'll share the YouTube page, and again, our website, Israel.travel. You don't have to do www or .com at the end. Just Israel.travel is an amazing resource with so much information about all the different cities and sites. So if you want to check that out, just to familiarize with the things that Chad mentioned plus more, it's a fabulous resource for sure.
Wonderful, great. So thank you, and we'll be in touch. We'll get all the information out to the agents. Thank you. Have a great week, and thank you for coming to our travel trade week.
Thank you, Roy.
Bye.
Bye.